Everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is the second episode in my podcast series, I guess. I filmed a video today and I decided to keep on my makeup, and it's currently 10 p.m. and I will be taking off my makeup immediately after I film this. The second episode was actually going to be exposing my Twitter likes. However, I feel like I need to give you some background on my Twitter likes first, because some of them won't make sense if you don't understand my fandom eras and things that I've been obsessed with. Some of those tweets just won't make sense to you, so I feel like I have to do this video first, and then I think I have to do the hockey video next, and then we can do the Twitter likes. And I also thought of another idea for a video, which would be fanfics. I had a fanfiction era, so I feel like that would be really fun to talk about that time in my life, which was so long ago. I still have some of the fan fiction saved, so that will also be a future episode, which I think will be very fun. But I thought I would go through all of my fandom phases, talking about all of the fandoms I have been a part of and basically how I became a fangirl. I'm not going to go super in depth for all of them because there is a million. I feel like I've just always been a fangirl. I've always been obsessed with stories or pop culture or celebrities. I have just always loved the entertainment world. I feel like my fangirl era started when I was a child. I was obsessed with The Little Mermaid. That is the most far back memory that I have with being obsessed with something was The Little Mermaid. That was my favorite Disney movie. I'm a Pisces. That makes sense to me. Of course I would love The Little Mermaid. But yeah, that was my earliest memory. And then I think another phase that I had was the Saddle Club. I don't know actually what the Saddle Club is even, but let me look it up really quick. The Saddle Club. I'm talking about the TV show, by the way, but I guess it is a book series, and it follows 3 aspiring equestrians developing their riding skills at Pine Hollow Stables. I barely remember this show, but I do remember being obsessed with it, and I wanted my name to be Lisa. That was one of the main girls in the show. Her name was Lisa, and I wanted to change my name to Lisa. I loved her. And yes, of course, I was a horse girl when I was younger. Of course, I still am a horse girl. I loved horses as a kid. I grew up on a farm. My grandparents had horses, so of course I was a horse girl. Oh my god, it debuted in 2001 and ended in 2009. I definitely was watching it probably in 2003 maybe. Maybe that was the time that I was watching it. Oh my god, I should find out where I can stream these episodes and rewatch them. I think that would be really fun. After that, I feel like it was probably Harry Potter was the next fandom that I was a part of as a kid. It was probably Harry Potter. I have vivid memories of watching the third one in theaters, Prisoner of Azkaban. That is my favorite one. I do remember seeing that in theaters, as well as Goblet of Fire and Order of the Phoenix. I do remember watching those in theaters. But I also remember when my brother and I wrote letters to, I think it was both Emma Watson and Daniel Radcliffe. I think we wrote letters for both of them, and we got letters back with a signed picture. I'm sure my mom still has it somewhere. I really hope she can find it, but that is a very vivid memory for me. So yeah, Harry Potter was probably in my early years as well. And then I feel we get into the more prominent eras of my life that I actually like have vivid memories of. The first one is Britney Spears. I was a huge Britney Spears fan. This is obviously around the time where her debut album came out. I was obsessed with Britney Spears. I had this VHS of her music videos that I got from my cousin, I think. And it had, I think, 3 music videos on there. It definitely had Baby Hit Me One More Time, Oops, I Did It Again, and another one, but I don't remember. And I remember putting this VHS on the TV and like trying to copy her dance moves. I was obsessed with Britney Spears. I loved her. And then we get into the Disney era for me. The Disney era was the most transformative years of my life. And I feel like it truly started with High School Musical. I was the biggest High School Musical fan. I loved it so much. My entire bedroom growing up was full of posters of Disney Channel actors or celebs. I had, of course, all of the like High School Musical posters. I had so many Zac Efron posters, Vanessa Hudgens, Ashley Tisdale. I had some Miley Cyrus. I had, I think, a little bit of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I basically just had like a lot of Disney posters in my bedroom growing up, and I wish I had pictures of what my bedroom looked like when I was a kid. I don't have those photos, sadly, but I had like a rainbow wall in my bedroom, and I had posters everywhere. That was like when you would go to the store and you would go in the like magazine section and you would look at like the Tiger Beats and like J14, and you would look at all the posters that were in those magazines, and you would buy the posters, or you would buy the magazines so you would get the posters. I did that shit all the time. And then also I would like cut some of the pictures from the magazine and like put those on my wall as well. I loved High School Musical. And then like that introduced me to obviously like Hannah Montana and That's So Raven and The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I was also like very much on the edge of Lizzie McGuire because I did have a Hilary Duff phase. I also loved Hilary Duff so much. I actually went to her concert once when I was younger with my cousin, and I loved Hilary Duff. I loved Lizzie McGuire, and I loved Raise Your Voice, and like I loved that era. Was that before High School Musical or like kind of around the same time for me? I feel like a lot of that early time kind of blends together, so I don't really remember like what came first, but I feel like maybe I was a Hilary Duff fan before High School Musical, or it might have just been all around the same time. And then, of course, obviously I loved Wizards of Waverly Place, Sunny with a Chance. I did grow up with Miley Cyrus, Selena Gomez, and Demi Lovato. Like, I grew up when they were having their prime on Disney Channel. And that is the era that I grew up in, and I loved it. It was so fun. There was so much drama. I feel like this was also kind of the time where the internet was very popular, and what is that? Like, I had Pixo accounts back in the day. I don't know if we remember Pixo, but I had a bunch of Pixo accounts dedicated to certain celebrities. I'm trying to think of the Pixo accounts I had. I barely remember them, to be honest, but I had a Pixo phase. There was also another website that I'm trying to think of that like celebrities were using. It was not MySpace. It was like something similar to that, but I can't remember the name of it. It was like it had like a red logo on it, but I don't remember. And then obviously like Tumblr came up, and of course I was on that. I actually still have my Tumblr accounts. I have multiple. I still have them, and they are 14 years old. I looked at it the other day because I was like, how long have I had this account? It's been 14 years. And so a lot of my fandom phases are actually documented on my Tumblr, which is kind of crazy. I will link my Tumblr down below if you want to see it. I'll actually link both of them, but I rarely use them now. Like, I do occasionally go on them, but yeah, anyways. So I had a huge Disney phase, and Again, I feel like this is kind of where the timelines get a little confusing for me because I don't fully remember like what came first, but I also had a huge WWE phase. I was a WWE fan back in the early 2000s. It was actually primarily, I think, like 2006 is when I really got into it. It might have been a little bit earlier than that, but this is like prime John Cena era. This was like when he was wrestling all of the time. This was also like around the time of like the Hardy Boys being in the actual WWE. I know they still wrestle and stuff, but I don't think it's for like WWE. It's for the other wrestling company that they have, I think. And it's crazy that I'm talking about this when John Cena just like retired from the WWE. And I like remember watching him like every week. I would watch every week Monday Night Raw. And then there was like SmackDown. And I can't remember if it was like Wednesday or Saturday SmackDown or Thursday. I don't remember. But I knew it was Monday Night Raw. My brother and I would watch that shit all the time. We loved WWE. My favorite wrestler at the time was Mickie James. I loved Mickie James. This was kind of the era that she started. And her storyline was basically, she was obsessed with Trish Stratus. And she was like obsessed in like a crazy stalker way. And then she had like a small storyline with John Cena. They had like a little romance. I remember that. And yeah, I remember like The Undertaker was still there, Triple H. I know a lot of the wrestlers are still kind of in there, like CM Punk. I think he's still there. The Miz, Maurice, Kelly Kelly, the Bella Twins. That is the time that I was watching WWE. Like those were the popular people. But yeah, like my favorites at that time was John Cena and Mickie James. I loved both of them. They were like my favorites. I actually saw one of their shows. I think it was in Regina. And my whole family went. And I think the only wrestler that I liked that was there was Natalia Hart, I do believe. I think it was Natalia. Or was it Natalie? I don't remember. But I did see a WWE show live, which was really fun and a core memory for me. Then I think it was my Twilight phase. I think we've hit like 2008-ish. And that is, of course, when I discovered Twilight. I actually remember watching the movie for the very first time. I was sick at home. My brother and I were both sick at home from school, and my parents had left to go to the city to run errands and stuff. And I was old enough to be at home. This was like in the era before streaming. I don't want to give anything away. LimeWire and things like that existed back in the day. So somehow I got this copy of Twilight. Somehow I had this copy of Twilight. And I remember putting it on the TV. And I was obsessed. I found out it was a book series, so of course I made my parents bring me to the bookstore to go buy the whole series. I think at the time all of the books were out. I'm not exactly sure. And that was also like one of my first real reading experiences that I had ever had. I think before that I was just like reading books for school. And a lot of the books I was reading at the time were French books because I went to a French school. So Twilight was like the first series that actually got me into reading. And I devoured the books, and I still own my copies, which is crazy. And I love the movies still. I rewatch them all the time. Like I rewatch them at least probably 3 times a year. I love the movies so much. They're just so fun and they're very nostalgic to me. But yeah, I remember watching the movie for the first time and loving it. And I think I saw New Moon in theaters and maybe Eclipse, but by the time Breaking Dawn Part 1 and 2 came out, I think I was kind of over it. I didn't really care about Twilight, so I don't think I watched the last 2 until like later on. But I also don't remember the time that I watched those, so I'm not sure. But I did have a Twilight phase, of course. That phase has never left me, let's be honest. Then I feel like I went on another random side quest and I became obsessed with General Hospital, which is a soap opera on ABC. This was also kind of around the same time, like 2008 to 2010, I think was the time that I was watching General Hospital. And obviously I'm going to have to be specific about like characters that I loved and stuff because it's, you know, General Hospital recycles storylines. They have the same actors for years or then they replace actors. So this was around the time when Kelly Monaco was playing Sam and Steve Burton was playing Jason. And of course, I was a J-Sam fan. Jason and Sam were my favorite couple at the time. And this is when they were not together, but they were getting back together. This was kind of around the storyline when they were, I think, looking for Michael in Mexico or Hawaii or something like that. And obviously Jason is like a mobster slash like private investigator type, and so was Sam. And they, I think, both teamed up to try to find Michael. That was when Jason and Sam were falling like back in love with each other. And then I was also obsessed with Lulu and Dante, and this was when Julie Marie Berman was playing Lulu, and this was like when they were falling in love. And I also remember when James Franco was on General Hospital for a small period and he played like a creepy person. I think he was like kind of a stalker. I kind of forget the storyline, but that was when I was watching General Hospital, was back in that time. And I think it's kind of crazy because I don't think, well, I know there's a new actress that plays Lulu. I don't even know if Dante is still in it. I think Kelly Monaco was fired. I don't know if Steve Burton is still there. I have not kept up with General Hospital whatsoever, but I was watching it back in like 2008 to 2010, and I kind of checked out when they were recycling the storyline of Jason and Elizabeth falling in love. If you've been a General Hospital fan, you probably know what I'm talking about, but basically a long time ago, Jason and Sam were together. They kind of broke up, and then Jason and Elizabeth got together, and then they broke up, and then Jason and Sam got back together, and then I think they did Jason and Elizabeth again. And that was kind of when I was starting to check out, and I was like, okay, I think I'm over General Hospital. And obviously with the soap opera, like there is a new episode every single day. And I mean, you could technically go like a few days without watching it and you probably wouldn't miss much, but I obviously only cared about like Jason and Sam and Lulu and Dante. So like if there was nothing going on with them, like I didn't really care. But I would also watch, like I became so invested with Jason and Sam that I would like watch all of their like old episodes or like old scenes from them, like when they first got together and that whole storyline. And I would watch like edits and stuff. Like I was deep in my Jason and Sam phase. But yeah, that I feel like is kind of the early 2000s phases for me. And then we kind of get into 2010s. And I feel like 2010 to 2014 is like my most consumed fandom eras. This was like truly when I was obsessed with things. And I feel like this was also when I was more prominent on the internet and like consuming internet content about like my favorite characters and TV shows and all of that. So it's also kind of the beginning of my reading era. I think obviously I read Twilight in 2008, but I didn't really read that much. I would read kind of off and on, but I think 2010 was when I really started getting into reading. I knew like I was deep into reading in 2012. That was like my beginning era of like truly reading all the time. But I feel like 2010, 2011 was like when I was starting to get into reading. And of course I read like the classic YA books, you know, the Shadowhunter series by Cassandra Clare. At the time it was only The Infernal Devices and The Mortal Instruments, but I think there was the 2 Infernal Devices books were out when I had started that. And then the Mortal Instruments, there was only 4 books out, I think. God, the rush of like getting a new Cassandra Clare book back in that prime era was crazy. That was so exciting. And of course, Divergent, Vampire Academy, the Lux series by Jennifer L. Armentrout, the Raven Boys, like around that era is like, I was reading those books as they were coming out, and I feel very lucky to have been a part of that time, because I just feel like there are no books like that nowadays. I mean, I'm not really in the young adult space anymore, so I don't really know, but that was like the prime young adult era, I feel like. So of course I got into all of those. And then we go into like my CW ABC Family era. This was when I would consume basically every CW show and every ABC Family show. And primarily, I feel like this started with the Vampire Diaries. And I was actually a little late to the Vampire Diaries fandom, I guess. I joined right as season 3 was airing, or like the first episode of season 3. I actually remember this like clear as day. My cousin from Vancouver had came over and she loved the Vampire Diaries. And I think we were just putting something on TV to watch, and she had put that on. And I had like no idea what it was. And it was, I remember this very clearly. It was the episode where Catherine is in the like cave and she's telling Elena about like her history, I guess, or like her family drama, basically. And I remember watching this episode and being like, oh my God, this is such an interesting show. And then I binged all the episodes, and then season 3 aired shortly after that. So I was a little late to the Vampire Diaries, but I was like, I feel like in that prime era. And of course, you know, I watched The Secret Circle. I watched Rain. I watched Nikita, Beauty and the Beast. And of course, this is also around the same time of Pretty Little Liars. I loved Pretty Little Liars. I actually had read all of the books. I think around season 1 that had come out, I was reading the series and I was like caught up with the books, and I was waiting for like the new book to come out. I think I had read almost all of the books, which there are like 20. And I loved reading that series. It was so fun. And I loved the TV show. I haven't even seen the last season, which is kind of sad, because when the last season was coming out, I was like kind of over it. So I didn't really care that much. And I also quit the Vampire Diaries after season 4. I didn't care anymore. I was just kind of over it. And I didn't really like the direction that oh my God, can I talk? I didn't really like the direction that the show was going in. And I hadn't read the books or anything like that. I've heard that the books are very different. But yeah, I quickly kind of got over certain phases. If I didn't like where the story was going, I would just be like, okay, I'm kind of out. So I stopped very early on in my Vampire Diaries phase. But yeah, I loved Pretty Little Liars, The Lying Game. There was another show that was similar to that. I forget what it was called, but also this is around the Teen Wolf time too. I loved Teen Wolf. I think I had joined the fandom as season 2 was airing. And I also eventually checked out of that after like season 4. I don't remember anything past that. I don't think I watched anything else from that time. But yeah, I was like in the height of those popular teen shows. I was consuming them as they were airing, which was just like a golden time for me, especially in that time, like 2012 to 2014, 16. That was like the best time. And I loved those TV shows. I loved being a part of those fandoms and like waiting for the new episode every week, and then like live tweeting your reactions while you're watching the show. And like a bunch of other fans are also doing that at the same time was just so thrilling. I loved that time when you would like live tweet your reactions. It was so great. I know people still do that nowadays, but it was just so fun because you would all be watching the same show at the same time and like tweeting your reactions. It was just like It was great. I loved it. And then I feel like I kind of got into some older shows that have like a huge fandom that did really impact me, like One Tree Hill. I just missed the window for One Tree Hill. I was starting the show as the last season was airing. So I didn't really get to experience the last season live with everybody else because I was catching up basically. And One Tree Hill is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I love that show. I am, of course, Team Leighton. I am so sorry to say this. I love Peyton and Lucas together, and I did from day one. I obviously am a Naley fan, of course. Nathan and Haley are my OTP number one. And then it's Lucas and Peyton. I'm so sorry to say that, but I loved them. I'm sorry, but like they were meant to be together. They were meant to be together. And then I got into Dawson's Creek at that time and loved Dawson's Creek. I'm a Joey and Pacey fan. Number one. Joey and Pacey. They were everything to me. I loved them. And that's also how I got into Fringe. I had finished Dawson's Creek and I obviously love Joshua Jackson. So at the time he was on a TV show called Fringe and I watched that show because of him. Like I was missing his acting. So I watched that and that is also one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I love Fringe. It's such an underrated TV show. Highly recommend. But yeah, Dawson's Creek was a huge phase for me. And then we get into my Buffy phase. I, of course, had a Buffy phase. I love Buffy. I have vivid memories of binging the show in the summer. I loved that show so much. And I feel like I'm one of the rare people that actually loves Buffy with Angel and Spike. Like, I recognize that Angel was probably the better choice for her and that he was like one of her great first loves. And I loved that for Buffy in the beginning, but then obviously there was just like no one else for her. So of course I was like, I guess Spike. And then I really grew to love Spike, and we're going to ignore what happened in like the last season. We're going to ignore that out of character moment, out of character scene. If you know what I'm talking about, you get it. I don't excuse that scene, but it just felt very kind of out of character. And like, I don't know. It's so hard to like talk about how much I love Buffy without like mentioning that scene and like that storyline. Like they definitely had a very interesting way to put Buffy and Spike together, but ultimately I did grow to love them, and I loved the ending of Buffy. And I love Buffy. She's one of my favorite characters of all time, and I love that show very much. I wish I had it on DVD so I could rewatch it over and over again. I think it is one of the best shows of all time. And if you haven't watched it, please go watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It is so good. And it will take you, I feel like, the first season to really get into the show. And then, I don't know, you just have to understand that it is kind of corny. And the special effects are very 90s. But it is such a great quality TV show. Like the writing, the characters, it's just really great. It also had like some very amazing like pop culture TV moments that I feel like you need to witness. So please go watch Buffy. Then I feel like we get into kind of like the more current era for me, which was my 50 Shades of Grey era. Yes, I did love 50 Shades of Grey. I actually didn't really care about the books that much. I was more so a fan of the movies, and I loved Dakota Johnson and Jamie Dornan, and I was like very much obsessed with the like movie fandom more than the books. The books were just kind of like to me. I did read them, and I was probably like 16 when I read the books, and at that time I had already been reading smutty books, so like none of that fazed me, but it was very different from what I had read before. And yeah, I just didn't really care. I actually like definitely prefer the movies over the books, which is interesting. But yeah, I loved the movies, and I remember how I woke up at 6 a.m. one time because they were doing, I think Jamie and Dakota were on it was either the Today Show or Good Morning America or something like that. And they premiered the trailer for the very first time. And I watched that live. Like, I woke up early to watch it and I was so excited. And again, this is like Twitter. It was very popular on Twitter. It was blowing up everywhere. I still have regrets of not buying the Entertainment Weekly magazine cover with Dakota and Jamie both on it. I regret not buying that magazine because I loved that photo shoot they did. It was like before the movie had come out. It was basically like as they were promoting while they were like literally filming, which is kind of crazy. Like they took all those photos, I think, before they even started filming and stuff, which is really crazy. But yeah, I remember that era being really, really fun and chaotic. And I remember, you know, I was fighting demons all the time on the internet because people were hating on the movies and the books. And I was like, you know, fighting back because I loved it so much and it was so fun. I think also like there is a part of me that always thought like, you know, it's not really that serious. Like this is a TV show, this is a movie, it's books, like it's not the end of the world. So even though I was like very defensive over all the hate that the actors got and the movies and the fandom and stuff, I just loved being a part of a fandom that was like excited for things, you know? I think that is truly what I loved about being a part of a fandom online, especially like Twitter. It was just like being excited about like paparazzi photos of them filming a scene or like of there being like a teaser released or the poster dropping or character photos. All of those things were so exciting back in the day, and I feel like they don't really do that anymore. They do that for the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games has stayed true to like launching character photos and like having this big moment when it comes to their movies, and I wish other fandoms did that or like other franchises because it's just so fun. Like I feel like I haven't been a part of that in so long. But yeah, I had a huge 50 Shades of Grey phase and I was obsessed with Dakota Johnson and Jamie Dornan, and I would watch everything that they were in. I would watch all their interviews and I was like very knee deep in all of that. And then that kind of fizzled out. Obviously, the last movie came out and, you know, the fandom was kind of just no longer a thing. And then I feel like I wasn't a part of a fandom for a long time. You know, I was probably like watching other TV shows and movies in the meantime, but then of course we got into my after phase. I loved the books and it was becoming a movie, and I think it had been like a few years since I read the books, so I like didn't fully remember the story and I wasn't even sure if I like loved the books that much to be excited for the movie. But I of course had reread the books, and then I was so excited for the movie, and I watched that first movie. And like I have videos on my book channel if you want to go watch them. I have like my reaction to the first trailer, and I filmed a review when I first saw the movie, and I've actually documented like my entire after journey on my book channel. If you're curious, I do have a playlist dedicated to all that. I was so obsessed that I started making videos updating you guys on like when and what they were filming and like all the behind the scenes like rumors and updates and like paparazzi photos, casting announcement. Like I was fully obsessed. Those videos are still all up on my channel if you want to go watch them. But yeah, I was very obsessed with the After franchise and the books. I'm still very defensive about the books. You can hate on them all you want, but I love them, and I feel like I truly understood Tessa and Hardin. Unfortunately, I did not watch the last movie. I did not watch After Everything. By the time that movie came out, I was just really over it and I really didn't care. And, you know, I'm still very like upset and bitter about the way that Josephine Langford was treated by the production company, like they really just did not like her for some reason. And, you know, she was like barely in the last movie for no reason. And that's why I kind of like just didn't watch the last movie because I didn't care. And, you know, Anna Todd was not really a part of production past after we collided because there was drama. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get heated all over again. But yeah, I was deep into my after phase. And then for a while, there's really been nothing that was kind of new. Like I kind of had a little bit of a through my window phase. It's a movie. Well, actually it's a book series, but it is also a movie on Netflix. And there are 3 movies, but I didn't like movie 2 or 3. I still love movie 1. Like I would still rewatch that now. But I wasn't as obsessed as I've been for other things. So I just feel like that doesn't really count for me. Like I wasn't that obsessed with Through My Window. I did love it. And I was excited to like possibly be a part of a new fandom, but also like those movies are in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. I don't understand it. You know, like I can kind of understand because I do know French and it's pretty similar, but all of the interviews and like everything was done in Spanish. So it was kind of hard to be a part of the fandom when you don't really know like the language or what's going on and stuff. So I feel like I couldn't really be obsessed with it. And then, you know, I ended up not liking the last 2 movies. So I wasn't really that into it. For present day, of course, my obsession is Heated Rivalry. That is what my hyperfixation is now. That is the fandom that I'm currently a part of. I'm obsessed with it. I joined the fandom on... Oh, that's a really great question. Let me figure out when I joined this fandom. December 3rd, I believe, is when I joined the fandom. Oh, no. Okay. I read Heated Rivalry on... Was that really? Yeah, it was. Okay. So I joined the fandom December 10th, because I read Heated Rivalry December 9th. I had like a physical copy of it. It was like one of the last copies at my bookstore. And I read that. Then I watched the first 3 episodes and I was waiting for episode 4. And I remember my friends and we watched the first 3 episodes. Episode 4 had come out and I was avoiding Twitter because I didn't have time to watch episode 4 before I hang out with my friends. So we had watched the first 3 episodes and then they left and then I watched episode 4. And yeah, that was kind of when I joined the fandom. And I, of course, I'm obsessed. I'm still obsessed. I still love it. I have been rewatching it. I have been obsessing with every event that Hudson and Connor have been at and every photo shoot that they've had, an interview. Like I was reading literally every single interview that they've been doing. And yeah, I am fully in my Heated Rivalry phase. I don't see this phase leaving me for the time being. I feel like I will be a part of this fandom for a while. I am very excited about season 2, obviously, but I'm also really excited for Unrivaled, which is coming out in September 26th, 29th. September 29th is when Unrivaled comes out, which is the 7th book in the Game Changers series. I did read The Long Game in January and I loved that book. I sobbed the entire time I was reading that book. I think just because like Shane and Ilya felt more real to me after watching the show and like having, I guess, more of a visual oh my god, I'm talking too long and too fast, and that's what happens after having more of a visual representation of the characters. Just reading about them and like picturing Hudson and Connor and like picturing how they would act it out, that book just hit me so much harder, and I would just cry every moment that they were miserable and also every moment that they were so happy. Like I just love Shane and Ilya so much, and I love Hudson and Connor, and I'm so happy to be in this fandom and just like love the show and love the actors, and I'm so excited to see how they do season 2. I'm really excited to see all the new characters that I hope they include, and to see who will be cast, and like to be a part of this fandom now and like be excited for season 2, and like, you know, see all the casting announcements, and hopefully some of the actors will share some behind the scenes photos and stuff. That would be really fun. I feel like Hudson is probably going to do that, and I'm very excited for that. Yeah, I'm so excited to be a part of a fandom again, because I feel like it's been so long since I've been in a fandom and like excited about new things in a fandom, because I feel like every time I've joined something, it's been always like the end of it. So I don't really get to appreciate it, I guess. And this time around, like, you know, I'm in it quite early, which is fun. There's so many scenes I'm like so excited to see on screen, and I hope they do them. I feel like the scenes that I love the most are like obviously some of the bigger scenes, so I know we'll probably get those, because season 1 was obviously so close to the book. Like, it was a very faithful adaptation, so I just know Jacob is going to blow it out of the park with season 2. I'm very excited about that. And I can't wait for Unrivaled. That's going to be so fun. Like, oh my God. Shane and Ilya are just, oh, they're going to be so happy. And like, I'm so excited for them. I'm so excited. But yeah, that was all of my fandom phases. That is how I became a fangirl. It's how, I guess it's just like every fandom that I've ever really been a part of. I know I didn't really go into like music wise, because I feel like if I would talk about music, it would definitely go in like a different direction. Like, I mean, I listed like Britney Spears and Hilary Duff and High School Musical in that era. But, you know, like I did have a huge Selena Gomez phase. I did go to her concert once, loved it. I think that's like the only other concert I've been to. I don't go to concerts very often. And I probably won't, because they're very expensive and nobody comes to my city anyways. And it's so expensive to travel somewhere just for a concert. And like, I don't really have anybody to go to a concert with, because like my music taste is very different from like my friends' music taste, I guess. But I was also like on Tumblr in like 2014 era, where we had Lana Del Rey, Marina and the Diamonds, Arctic Monkeys, that era. I was part of that era on Tumblr, and that was like the peak time. Thinking back to all of these like fandom eras that I was a part of, like I truly feel like I was a part of all of the golden eras, and I'm incredibly like grateful and happy that I was a part of such a big pop culture time. I feel like so many people, you know, obviously right now they're romanticizing 2016, and like I mean, it's crazy to think I graduated already. I had been out of school for like 2 years at that point. But I feel like truly the era that like was amazing for me was like 2012 to 2014. Like that was the era. I guess I could have included like my hockey phase. I had a pretty heavy hockey phase in like 2018-ish. Which I will be talking about in the next video. I'm going to talk about how I started watching hockey, then I stopped, and now I'm back to watching hockey. I'm going to go through all of the reasonings, and that's going to be interesting, hopefully, for you. It'll be interesting for me to talk about. And then we're going to get to my Twitter likes. That will be episode 3. So, no, that will be episode 4. That will be episode 4. But yeah, these were all of my fandom phases, all of the eras that I was a part of. Let me know if you were ever a part of these fandoms. Let me know what was like your favorite fandom that you were a part of. Honestly, for me, I think it was the 50 Shades era, just because it was like very much online. Like it was very Twitter, and like Tumblr at that time was very prominent. Like High School Musical was a huge part of my life, but I wasn't really on the like online spaces at that time. Like it was kind of Pixo and that, which was fine, but it wasn't like as interactive, I guess, as when it was like the Twitter time, you know, like the very early days of Twitter back. Well, I've had my Twitter account since, when was that? Let me look. I still have the same Twitter account that I've had since January 2010. Still have that same Twitter account. So I feel like 50 Shades was probably one of my favorite eras. Probably same with After as well. And I would say the Vampire Diaries. Like that was a huge part of my life as well. And then I would say like right now, Heated Rivalry obviously is like a big part for me. But yeah, those would be like the times that stood out to me the most, honestly. But yeah, that was it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in my next episode. Bye.